Hello, team. This is Terrence Brown with Mustard Seed Evolution. We're still in Excel for Project Professionals, and we are talking about if statements in today's lesson. Let's begin. On the agenda, it's pretty straightforward. We're talking about if statements. We're going to touch on ifs, and if error. If is pretty straightforward, but it's the mother. I call it the mother of all if statements. Simply enough, if have three components. You have the logical test, you have the results if the test is true, and then you have the results if the test is false. In the logical test, ultimately is going to be true or false. Some examples include if one number is greater than another, you can always flip that. If one number is less than another, that's also acceptable. If one number or value is greater than or equal to a value, and if a is blank. And is blank always return a true or false. So if we're evaluating A2 as a cell, if nothing's in A2, it's going to say true. If something's in A2, it's going to return a false, right? So the heart of this logical test is to return a true or a false. That's it. And I have A2 and B2 as my two examples. But it could be if A2 is greater than 0, or it can be as A2 is equal to 10. So mentally plug in those numbers as you see fit. All right. So next we have if the result is true, or if the results of the test is true, then you want some action to happen. So a few examples. If A1 is greater than B1, we want to say great. In this instant, if in A1 there's a 5 and B1 there's a 1, it's going to show great. Next example, if A1 equals B1, then we want to sum a certain range. In this example, we want to sum C1 through all have ones in it, and A1 is 5 and B1 is 5, then the results are going to be 5. The last example, if is blank is true, then show 0. So if nothing's in A1, I'm sorry, I said A2, mean if is blank A1, show 0. So if nothing's in A1, then we're going to simply return a 0. The next and final level of an if statement is false. What happens if the results are false? A couple examples. If A1 is greater than B1, of course, we already said if it's true, great. But if A1 is not greater than B1, we're going to say bad. All right. The next example, if A1 equals B1, we want to sum C1. If it's false, we're showing that we want to do another if statement. Now, I want to pause here because this is pretty powerful. This is called a nested if statement. So, by us having a caveat of if A1 is not equal to B1, if it's false, then we're going to have another evaluation. And then that evaluation is if A1 is less than 0, meaning that it's negative, we want to put very bad. So you can start a nested if statement, and that can keep going and going with that nested if statement. It's a very powerful tool. And finally, if is blank A1, if it's true, if it is blank, we put 0. But if it's not blank, if it has any value, it could be a number, it can be a letter, it can be a word, anything, then we want to put B1 in as that value. So simple enough, just to recap, if statement is very simple but very powerful. You have your logical statement, and then in that logical statement, it's either going to return a true or a false. And then we're going to have the results if it's true, and then results if it's false. And let's go to Excel sheet to keep going through the ifs. All right. So kind of want to like go through that a little bit. And I'm not going to use A and B, but I just use another set here, right? So equals if, and I'm going to use C and D. So if C2 is greater than D2, all right, and you can see the cells highlighting as we going through it, then I want to do great. Then if not, bad. I want to note that um, if you're going to put a word or any text, it need to be in parentheses. Right? So as we can see, C it automatically put bad because C2 is not greater than D2. So we're going to put 4 here. It's great. We're going to put 3 here. It stays great. If we put a 4, it's bad. We put a 10, 100 is bad. If we put -1, it's great. Simple enough. Now, again, I just want to do this just to show the error. If you just simply type in bad, because a lot of time I do that too. I just forget to put the quotation. It automatically puts it in there. So, and notice it's a name, it's an IFERROR error, right? So if you go through the steps, which I love to do, and you evaluate, the name isn't correct. Somehow it's recognizing bad, which is odd, but it's not recognizing the value of great here. So to fix that, we put in a quotation. Now I want to say it's just to make it to bad. So this worked because it's great. But if we flip it, if we say, let's call this 5, we would get the same error. In order to correct that error, we put bad in quotations, and now it's fixed. All right. And kind of go through a nested if statement. Let's say that we want to evaluate another scenario. So if C2 is greater than D2, then put great, right? If it's not, let's do another if statement. If D2 is equal to 0, is less than 0, then very bad. Bad. And then if it's false, then it's just bad. Then we'll put another parentheses here. So right now it's just bad. But let's say that a -2, right? And then we have a -3, right? That's great. But we have a -1. That's very bad. So -2 or -3 is great because at least C2 is greater than D2. We always want that situation, right? In this small example. But in this scenario, if D2 is less than 0, it's going to be very bad. But if it's greater than, is just bad. So, so that's a small example of an if statement and a nested if statement, right? So let's move on to ifs. Let's move on to ifs. Let's do go back to our sheet. Perfect. All right. So if statement functions much like if with one caveat. There are a series of logical statements and a series of if that logical statement is true. There isn't a field if that logical statement is false. It just keeps going and going and going. So it's similar to nested if, but it just keeps going and going. And here's an example, right? So we have an if statement, and it's evaluating D5, which is the control value. It's saying if D1 equals 1, then we're going to put a 100. If another logical statement, D5 equals 2, then we're going to put 200. Okay. Then the next logical statement is if D5 is blank, we're going to put 0, right? Only true. So if this is only true, put 0. The next logical statement, if D5 is greater than 2, then we're going to put please only enter 1, 2, or leave blank. All right. So we kind of spell out some instructions on this field. Maybe we just want the control value to be 1, 2, or blank. And we're given this instruction if someone puts something outside of 1, 2, or blank. Perfect. So let's enter. Let's test it out. So we're going to put 2, 200. Let's go back to 1, 100. Let's go to 3. Please only enter 1, 2, or blank. Great. Let's go to 100. Same thing. Maybe even let's break it. Let's try to go to a couple million or 2. All right. Please only enter 1, 2, or blank. Perfect. Perfect. So this is ifs. Now, I would like to use this situation to explain if error. All right. So the end goal is we're going to wrap this in an if error statement. But first, we got to create the error. And one thing that this does not account for, it goes from 1, it goes to 2, and it goes to if it's blank. So let's just test that out. Blank. Let's delete. Blank. 0. Perfect. And it goes if it's greater than 2, but it doesn't. Let's say that it is 1.5. Let's try it out. Ooh, error. How about 2.5? That's great because it's over 2. How about 0.5? There we go. So it gives an error, right? And a lot of times it's hard to account for every single situation. So in order for us to kind of clean up our errors and for Excel not to have a ton of errors, but for us to understand where information goes wrong, we want to wrap this in a if error statement. How do we do that? So simply put, we come here at the beginning and we type in if error parentheses, and then at the end we put a comma, and then we put the value of what we want to show if we get an error. So let's say we want to put error, please see instructor. And stress this up a little bit. Perfect. And close. So the if error will it only evaluates the original statement, and if something's wrong with this statement, if it produces an error of some sort, it automatically gonna produce this report or this value that you put here. Again, this could be a text, it can be another cell, so another value, or it can even be a formula. So we can be artistic when it comes to what we put in if error. All right. So another value we didn't account for negatives. So let's say I want to do a negative 100. Please see error. Please see constructor. Let's go back to 0. Let's go to 1. Let's go to blank. Let's go to 2. Let's go to 10. And let's go to zero point 0.5. Sweet. So we've covered ifs, we've covered ifs, and we've covered if error. All right. If you have any questions or concerns about ifs, or ifs, or if ever, please give me an email. I love to interact with clients and students. And please join the evolution. Go to mustardseedevolution.com, sign up, and kickstart your growth and your professional development towards project management. Thank you and have a great day.